times too. I've been on 4 inches.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our we're glad you're here with us. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'd like to ask everyone to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Pratt, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we do the roll call, I'd like to, Ryan was there, and I guess David was there, and Rob Jones was there. The recent training at the Magistrates Conference in Louisville. And one of the magistrate's daughters was asked to come up and say the pledge. And I thought she was an auctioneer in training, because that was the fastest pledge I've ever witnessed, and everybody in the room smiled. You know, it was well received, but it was a good moment for sure. Ms. Hamilton, would you call the roll, please?
In the auctioneer voice?
Yes.
Mr. Hostetler?
Present.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Corman?
Present.
Mr. Ellison? Mr. Pratt?
Here.
Mr. Livingston? Mr. Culbertson?
Here.
Judge Covington?
Present. Thank you. I'd like to ask your consideration of the minutes for the 3:10 meeting. Any questions or comments regarding those minutes as presented? Motion. I have a motion from Mr. Hostetler, second from Mr. Corman. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to let the record reflect as well that Mr. Livingston is now joined us virtually. Mr. Livingston, good evening. We'll go from there. Now, I'd like to consider the minutes from the 3:14 meeting. That was the meeting where we approved the resolution for the grant application for the North Sewer line project. Mr. Hostetler makes a motion. Mr. Wallace makes a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Transfers. Any questions or comments?
I had one question. I saw that there was one to John Osterman that was repeated 4 times. That was the same amount. Is that?
Yeah, that was reimbursement for his hotel stay and training.
Okay. It just appeared 4 times for the same amount.
Yes, 4 nights.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Pratt. Would there be a motion to accept those?
Motion.
Motion from Mr. Pratt, second from Mr. Jones. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Bills and hand checks. Any questions or comments?
I just want to make sure that everybody received my emails, because if you have the first agenda, more were added.
Yeah, 2, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 more. Yeah, I got them. Motion.
Motion from Mr. Hostetler.
Second.
Second from Mr. Wallace. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, clerk final settlement. Let the record reflect that 2022 fees in the amount of $43,458.44 were received from the county clerk, Rebecca Johnson. Number 8, let the record reflect that the jail budget was submitted and has been distributed as required to the court. Any questions or comments there?
What does MR stand for on these things?
Those, I'm sorry, those are fill in the blanks for Michelle Ray.
I was just wondering, I was like, I don't know what MR is. but-
Once you vote on salaries, that'll be filled in.
Yeah. So, number 9, we will have a presentation, discussion here, bid advertisement, Sheriff's Office Clerk's Annex with Mr. Mike Carroll. We started this journey several years ago with Capital Projects Committee. We worked through that committee, got sidetracked by COVID, but we've moved forward, and the recommendations from that committee was laid out, and we put into action trying to meet the goals of that committee. With that said, for your consideration tonight is to put out to bid the documents for construction of the Sheriff's Office and Clerk's Office Annex, and also we will consider the EMS station on Lexus Way. We've done a lot of work, a lot of effort, consideration. So Mike, if you'd like to address the court and then answer any questions.
Thank you, Judge. I guess the good news is this is going to be brief, so you can get home to see some part of the first basketball game tonight. The better games are the later games, so I know I won't see the end of those games. But anyway, what we as Judge Covington said, we're putting the project out for bid, pending approval of the court. Probably in a couple of weeks, we're working on getting a settlement from the state in regard to the septic tank at the EMS site. So that's one of the things that's holding it up a little bit.
I was asking Jared if he would go get my glasses, I'm sorry.
I thought it was on the screen. I thought I did something wrong, Stacy. Anyway, so what I'd like to do is just briefly review the site plans, floor plan, and final rendering of both facilities so that everybody, again, has, and we've given, I think everybody has an 11 by 17 copy. And so if we could go to the first slide, that'd be great. First slide is the Sheriff's Office, and there really hasn't been anything that's changed on the site plan. We've got all the grading worked out. We have a small retaining wall in the front of the building on the entrance drive in order to get that drive back up to grade coming out of the Sally Port. If you'll recall, the parking lot on the upper side of the building is the staff parking lot, and that will be fenced and with a remote controlled gate. The parking lot in front of the building is a public parking lot, and everybody will have access to that. It also serves as the driveway to the clerk's office. It also serves as the driveway to the clerk's office so that you can come in and rotate out without ever crossing paths. So we've successfully separated safety service parking and circulation from the public parking. So we end up with 3 entrances, but it's on a road that doesn't have a whole lot of traffic. So next slide. This is the upper level floor plan. The purple color on the right is the clerk's office area. At the bottom part of that area is the large public meeting room at the front of the building, which can also be used as a training room. And adjacent to that, the flesh-colored areas are just the public entryway, which comes into restrooms, so that you have the ability to utilize that training room or that classroom, meeting room, and whoever's using it has access to public restrooms, but can't enter the sheriff's office nor the clerk's office. Both the doorways on those are access controlled for off-hours use. During daytime hours, they would be opened up to just walk in. Right above the flesh-colored area is the elevator that goes down to the lower level of this building. And that elevator will be locked off for normal usage because nobody has a need to go down to the basement except the sheriff or the clerk. During daytime hours or during normal business hours, However, when voting takes place in the lower level of the building, that will be opened up, and anybody who comes into the building will have access to the elevator. They still won't have access to the doors coming in the back of both the clerk's and the sheriff's office.
I'd like to make mention that, even though that community area in the front is color coded in the clerk's area, that room will be able to be reserved by any county entity or
Good point,
department.
Judge. That really should be the flesh-colored area, because that's public access in there. Everybody, neither the sheriff nor the clerk have direct access to that room. The only access is from the vestibule, the front lobby. We have another side door out the back, just from an egress standpoint. Then the aqua green color is the sheriff's office, and we met, and I should mention, we met with Sheriff Hampton and the clerk's office staff this morning, to run over any final things that they wanted to get done. And I think on the sheriff's office, we made one small change where we increased the size of the captain's office a couple of feet, and we still have room in there for some seating in that area. And on the clerk's side, I don't think we made any changes on that side. So I think at this point, they both signed off. We have it written down. I wish. But that's the way that's going to be laid out. The next slide is the basement level of the building. Again, the aqua color is the sheriff's space. We have the locker rooms. They're dressing facilities downstairs. We have a fitness area downstairs. On the far left is the sally port, which you can obviously drive a vehicle in. And through the door in the sally port, right inside that area, there's 2 holding rooms in there. There's an ammo room and a room for cleaning, and right above that, to the left of the entranceway from the sally port, is the evidence area. And the sheriff will finally have a legitimate evidence area where he can enforce the chain of command, which is critical in any kind of court action that you have. We have an evidence processing where officers come in and they put any evidence they have in a locker, they seal it tight. They put the key in the locker. Nobody else has access to it except the evidence officer. He comes into the office, opens it up from the backside. He processes and then puts it in the evidence room. And we have 2 small rooms at the back of the evidence room, which are set aside as separate rooms for drugs and guns and money. If you've ever been in an evidence room in a sheriff's office or a police department, unless they've got those rooms, the smell of marijuana is just overwhelming in those spaces, which is the way it was in the police department when it was out at the shopping center site. So, any questions on the site plan or floor plan from anybody? Yeah.
Is there a storm shelter?
Yes. The
Which
storm shelter is essentially the locker rooms and those rooms to the left of the locker rooms and that corridor going out the back of the building to the top.
in the basement?
It's in the basement, yes. And what Rick is referring to is there is a code. The building code changed a few years ago. It required a storm shelter to be put into all public safety facilities, and that falls under this. That thing will withstand an F3 tornado. So if things go really bad, the building goes down, the staff can be in that storm shelter, and they're sheltered in there in place. It has a reinforced concrete ceiling over that portion of the building, and it has, as you can tell, you have to have plumbing in there so that they have access to restrooms, water supplies. One of the things we've learned about storm shelters is they're so seldom used that the water supply that people have taken to using just water bottles down there, so that any special water, in this case, that wouldn't be an issue because they're locker rooms. They're going to get used a lot. But a lot of storm shelters have a dedicated water supply that just gets stagnant because it's hardly ever used, which is good. So both buildings have it. The EMS is noted on it. It's not noted on this plan.
Okay, well, and one of the thoughts was, so this is really, that storm shelter is for people that are there when a storm happens.
That are there. It's not.
It's not something that the public could come to or would.
No. It's dedicated to people to get there so that after the storm is over, they can get out and work. and not have to be involved in. That's the thought process. So they can go out and do their job.
Yeah, I know they're building them in schools now.
Yes, yeah.
All schools have them.
Yep, that's right. Schools and public safety facilities are the only two, like this building, if you build, well, the Judicial Center won't have a storm shelter in it, unless you decide, the PDB decides they want to put one in, but it's not required by code. It's just public safety facilities and schools.
Mike, this is more of a spec issue. Is this spec for geothermal?
Yeah,
I think we discussed it.
Geothermal is an alternate bid.
Okay.
We'll,
So you're going to spec it both ways?
Yeah, it's both ways. If the bids come in well and you can afford geothermal, that's great. But
The other way it would be would it be gas or would it be just like?
it's a gas-fired boiler. It's a gas-fired boiler and a chiller system. Anything else?
And then the voting space down there is going to have LED lighting, concrete floor, electrical outlets.
We had a couple meetings with the clerk's office to identify how they wanted to lay that out, because everything in there is got temporary tables, voting booths, all that stuff can be moved around. So there's nothing permanent in there. I should mention, at the end of the locker rooms there, at the bottom side of the locker rooms, you come out into that undedicated space, we have extended a stub out of the plumbing line so that when the rest of that basement gets developed, plumbing could be put in there. And we have language in our documents that we will probably be in rock in that area right there. So we're excavating down 2 feet lower than the slab so we can get plumbing lines into that portion of the basement, should you ever choose to do that. Because otherwise, you'd have to be excavating rock below the slab.
Mike, just and just to follow up on what you said about looking at putting voting machines and things like that, I know one of the issues that when we originally saw the first set of designs, we insisted there be a double door out there in the sally port. Do we need to put a double door at some point to get into the future voting space? To get
Not for any voting purposes or machinery that goes in there. They all fit through a standard 3-foot door. I wouldn't think so.
Okay.
Because carrying evidence from the sally port in, you could see where that might be useful.
One of the other things I think we talked about was if they're going to store the voting machines down there, don't they have to be video?
It's
Or is
From
I'll let Joe
conversations,
come and answer
my
that.
recommendation would, and I believe the clerk's office, I don't want to speak for the clerk's office,
Right.
but from our conversations, they would prefer not to store them because letting, what's the name of the, HARP store them and upgrade them, and it makes more sense, plus the surveillance and all the other things.
Well, I don't know what they charge to store. I'm sure there's a fee. Just wondering. Yeah.
Is there access into this future voting space from that, like, can the public get from the public parking lot down here easily, or do they have to go through the stairs? Like,
No, there's an elevator. Actually, on that purple part, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, there's where the elevator is. They would have access from the front door. They would walk in the front door through the front lobby and the corridor. There's an elevator on the right, and so they would be able to get downstairs right there at that location and come in. And they could take the stairs too if anybody wanted to. But yeah, they've got means of egress to get out of the space as well.
Questions about that floor?
Okay. The next slide is actually the final rendering of the building, of what it's going to look like. And as you've seen before, we've talked about the front right portion of the building is the meeting room, and that's got it's going to look like a very shiny stone, but it's actually a composite cement type product it's really going to shine there and then the rest of the building then is face brick, and there's some metal panels there above the windows just to the left of the face brick in there. On the front side, we've got those materials. On the other three sides, it's basically face brick.
Mike, on the, we don't have a picture of the back side of the building.
Yeah, we don't.
Are you including, I know how that property lays, it kind of dips down like this. Are you proposing to put windows on the back side?
Yeah, there's,
Okay.
yeah, there's actually,
For the bottom level?
no, not for the, that's going to be below grade on the back side.
Okay, so it'll be below the
Yeah,
ground, okay.
yeah, there'll be no windows of any
But
kind.
just on the back side
Yeah.
of the front top first floor?
Yeah, actually, we were talking about that this morning. The back side of that building will have windows that look down over the park, so it'd be a nice view for, you know, like on the sheriff's department, their lunchroom, and actually, so is the clerk's lunchroom is on that back wall. So they'll have a nice vista to look down on too.
Okay.
And
you know,
we're encouraging them to go out and use the exercise track during lunchtime too. It'd be really nice there.
But if you'll notice over there on the left, there'll be a fence, and there's going to have to be a retaining wall there as you go down to that sally port because of the grade.
Correct.
And I don't know if you remember like the first rendering and first version, but that lobby area had a taller.
Yeah.
Much taller.
We took scissors and started cutting and cut
We cut a couple million. We cut almost $2 million.
We
what
cut
thought we
$2 million
cut out of the budget.
off.
So we don't need those big donkey fans now?
No, no. But the exterior finishes, like that one on the community, the black ceramic, it's really a concrete, it's not ceramic. It's a concrete based with a poly finish on it.
Right. Yeah.
And
It's not an expensive material.
Right.
That's what we've tried to do is just, you know.
And then the brick and the metal, but wanted to give it a little texture and a little, just a little change up.
I will say this, Judge, I appreciate you working on that lobby like that, because it is money it would have made the building look a little nicer, but it still looks
Oh,
good.
come on, Rick, it still looks nice.
It does. That's what.
No, I think it's still.
It does look nice.
Yeah, no,
It-
yeah, no,
And, and what you had originally would have been a little nicer for a lot more money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also, Rick, it would have cost more to maintain it, because it's, you know, you're heating and cooling that space.
I had that fixed, the big donkey fans.
Any, what questions or comments does anyone have related to this? And just to make sure you're clear, we're authorizing advertisement of the bid. The biggest thing is that the bid, ultimately, you can vote to accept the bid
Right.
or not when the bids come in.
Right.
And would you
That's,
comment?
we're asking for three bids from people, and they can bid it however they want to. We're asking for a bid from the sheriff's office, a bid from the EMS office, and a combined bid to build both facilities.
And then one other thing I want to remind, I shared this, into the bid language is direct purchase language. And, the big ticket items, the bigger items, we will direct purchase, hopefully avoiding the markup and avoiding the tax.
Sales tax.
But this is a functional building. It is nice. Government buildings should look nice. But I don't think we have gone, we've remained trying to be conservative, and I don't think we have a lot of fat on it.
Well, we're not going to win an architectural award like the Blue Run Distillery will, if it actually gets built and looks like that, which is my question.
But, the exterior finishes were, we wanted to look nice, but also be, easy maintenance and
Yes.
and also, survive, withstand the elements and,
Yeah, with
and
full concurrence.
be durable.
Yeah, with full concurrence with the staff, like there's no carpet in either one of these buildings. They're all floors, similar to, it's, an LVT is what it's called, but it's called luxury vinyl, and I hate the word luxury, but that's what the material is called. But it's better than the old 12 by 12 vinyl composition tiles. It looks nice.
And I'll go back and remind everyone, this building addresses 3 needs that were identified by the capital projects. It's the sheriff's office. If you've been to the sheriff's office recently, it is, we're out of room, aren't we, Lieutenant Benson?
Yes.
Way behind. And for training, for evidence, for, interviews, all those things. And then the clerk's office, if you've been here at the first or end of the month, they're out the door, they're stacked down there in the little lobby. And we're a growing community. We need another site for efficiency, for convenience, for customer service, for people to do those vehicle transactions. And then, of course, with the new voting center piece that's in there, this gives us a voting center that we can control. And we don't have to worry about other schedules. And it's just those three things. And then one thing I also like, one of the big aspects of where we put it, of course, we own the land, but the proximity for public safety, for you to jump on the bypass, for a deputy to be able to jump on the bypass and get, into different parts of the county pretty quickly. But then the proximity to all the schools, I mean, that's intentional. We've talked about this, and the school safety aspect. I mean,
The detectives.
and thank you. Right now our detectives are above the museum, and this puts everybody under one roof, and I just think it's the right thing for us to be looking at, and it checks a lot of boxes. Comments, questions?
I have one more question about the bidding. So we've done it different ways, and this is prior to Judge Covington. Sometimes we've gotten bids, and they've bid individually on certain things like electric and water and HVAC.
Yeah.
But what you're telling me
When
is
you,
that
when you,
this-
when you did that, you had a construction manager
Yeah,
that you.
we have just a general contractor,
This is-
it'll just
this
be
is
one lump sum bid.
one lump sum
is
bid.
what we'll be looking at.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Is there an estimate on what this building's,
Is there what?
is there an estimate on this project? Do you have
Yes,
an estimate?
that project is just under 13 million. Oh, yeah, you're the new guy, huh?
And we
Yeah, and
had,
I'm gonna go. I'm
we
gonna go-
we hired Robert Pace,
Yeah,
a professional estimator, to try to put the pencil to the paper to give us a good estimate.
yeah, we came to the fiscal court to request that you hire a professional estimator because, quite frankly, in the environment we're in, it's just, it's, every time you bid something, you hope and pray that it's gonna be close.
I understand that. You don't know me, but I'm an electrician, so.
Oh, okay.
So I know a little bit about this industry, and I'm gonna say it now that I'm not for building this building. I'll say that out, and I feel like there's another building that's gonna become available, and I think we need to look at that option before we spend $13 million on a new building. That's just my opinion. This is a great-looking building. You've done a great job, but that's just my opinion.
Well, and that's why
And
you're
I
on the
respect
court.
you.
No,
I
and we
respect you
respect that.
guys for what
Yeah.
y'all have done, and you've been going through this since 2019. But I just think that there's another building that's going to become available that we really need to look at, that maybe we can save some money. So,
And just to speak to that, I respect your vote and respect your opinion a 1,000 times. And, we went through the process and discussed using the current Justice Center as an option. And in conversations and talking, that building doesn't meet the needs that we saw for the sheriff's office, and it didn't meet the needs of a location not downtown for the clerk's office as well, and for that voting center. So that was the conversation.
yeah.
I definitely believe that the current Justice Center, and Mike, we'll go to bid in October. It'll be 24 months
Yeah,
schedule after that if we stay on, and then the conversation is how do we efficiently use that square footage. And one of the I've had a phone call from the Commonwealth attorneys, rent, like their building manager and lease manager, and he asked if we had any space right now that they would lease, and they were looking for 2,700 square feet minimum. That type of place would be a place that we could possibly look at is leasing to get some revenue off. And they were gonna pay $15 a foot per month. I know we will not let that go unused, but at the time and the discussion that we move forward with this, the sheriff's office, that location, at one time, the sheriff's office was in there, and then they moved to the bank, and from conversations, it did not meet the needs for so many different aspects. And I definitely understand what you're saying. And then the building itself at the Justice Center, we're putting a bid out. We had a pre-bid meeting yesterday, and we're lucky because AOC is going to pay for half of the HVAC. I fully believe that'll be $1 million when it comes in, and we'll see where we go there. But that site has some. We'll have to do some upgrades, but I do think that there's real uses that could potentially.
And that's where I would like to see is what is our plans for the current Justice Building? What are we going to do with it? We're moving forward.
Yeah, and the other aspect, Jailer Broyles had already also mentioned about the potential of using the first floor for administrative offices for the detention center, and that is a natural fit as well.
Yeah,
And
I think he could use
they're
it.
storing stuff in the Sally Port.
Yeah.
Or
In the hallways.
In the hallways.
I think he could use the space, but also he could go for classrooms and to get some of these other programs going that I think.
And if that was a conversation, like as we get closer to the current Justice Center being completed, those are real conversations that we'd sit down and look at how we meet that real need, because there's a need there for storage and administrative space.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
I have one question. Mike, I laid the agenda out to vote for the sheriff bid and then the EMS bid, but since there's the option to do both, should we just do one? Wait until you're done with the EMS presentation and do one?
That's up to you, it doesn't matter.
Cam,
Doesn't matter to me.
You can go either way on that, I think.
So if we do it the way I laid it out, that won't include the combination.
What do you want to
Judge,
David Livingston.
I think that if we have a vote that is against either project, we probably need to vote on that separately.
That's probably true, yeah.
That's good advice. I appreciate that. So we'll vote. Well, there has to be a motion first, but a motion, we would entertain a motion for putting out the bid, the sheriff's office, and then we'll come back and consider the EMS. The bid language, we're all approving the bid, but if someone wants to bid on both, that's fine.
They have the option.
Okay.
But is this also separate from the structural review proposal?
So we put those separate because it's a separate proposal, and let me, we tried to explain this. This is required by code that a peer review take place of the structural plans for the storm shelter.
That
So-
is strictly for the storm shelter.
So Mike, in his firm, reached out to some other firms. First price you got was $31,500,
Yeah.
and was able to find this company.
Yeah, we have been using them on literally all these storm shelters that we put into other public safety facilities because they're, it's $7,000, which seems to a lot, but as Judge Covington just mentioned, we've had proposals of $30,000 to do the peer review. And to me, we've designed it, we know what we're doing. I think all architects probably feel that way, but it got inserted in the code, so it has to get done and in the schools are the same way. Somebody else has to review those items as well.
And they physically stamp the plan.
Yeah, right.
Is that, well, even in the schools, third party comes out and physically inspects the installation. Is that
Yep.
gonna happen? Is that part of this too?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a requirement from the state.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments?
I'd make a motion that we put the
Sheriff's Office out to bid.
So we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
No.
One no. The ayes have it. Thank you all. Next, we will consider the structural review proposal. You all have had the proposal for that. What's the name of the firm, Mike, again?
Star Consultants.
Star Consultants.
We
we
have
try-
to do the clerk first,
Well,
and then we have to approve the clerks.
maybe
first.
I'm operating off an old, like, I was just gonna do the structural
Oh,
for
you,
the sheriff.
so you just want to do the sheriff altogether
Yeah.
and then go
Yeah.
back to the clerk? Okay. I
All right.
got you.
So that proposal is required. It's a $7,000 fee.
Yeah.
And Mike's vetted this company, used this company before.
I was going to say, you know, it's not anything that you've got an option on. You have to do this.
Yeah.
The plans are not going to get approved unless,
But I'm confident Mike and BCI is doing their due diligence on.
But the consultants for the like, we're not approving 7,600 for the sheriff and then also the clerk's office, right? Because it's just one building. But we have to pay it twice.
No,
Okay.
it's just.
But it's just one storm shelter.
one
for
for the
that
sheriff
building.
clerk's office, one for the EMS building.
Right.
That's why we're doing it separate.
Yeah.
Would there be any questions or comments, and would there be a motion?
And what's the company's name?
Star Consulting.
Yeah.
David Livingston, what was your comment? Motion from David Livingston, second from Mr. Wallace. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
No.
We have one no. The ayes have it. Thank you. Now we'll go to the Georgetown Scott County EMS bid advertisement. Mike, I'll let you,
Okay.
take it from here, but just a few comments. We have discussed that the city was considering a fire station that would be, part of this project, and they've elected to not go forward at this time. So we were ready to go, and we were just trying to be good partners, and because there would have been a savings on the construction, most likely. But with that said, they're not going forward. And Mike, just to clarify, will you talk about the site plan and just start from there?
Sure, okay. The site plan, as you can see, we're coming off, the vehicle entrance for employees and the emergency vehicles is coming off that existing intersection. It goes into Toyota, and that's all those, there's 3 curb cuts on the property that the county is getting from Toyota. That is one that's already there, and that's where the emergency trucks will go out. So there's a light there, they'll have a light there, and they'll go out, they'll come in that way, go out the front door unless they've got vehicles backed up back to back, and then they can go out the back door, either one. The lighter pink color is the actual EMS building, and to the right of that is the darker, more reddish color is actually the footprint of the fire station. And we left it on for this presentation just so you could see what it looks like or how big it is there. And there's bays. The EMS has 3 bays, and the fire station would have 2 bays there. So a portion of what you see in gray there for the fire station will not be built as part of this. The parking for their facility, the ramp in front of that won't be built. That will be part of the city's project if they choose to move forward with that project. The entrance to the facility for the public is down off of the roadway in the bottom left-hand corner, where they will come in from that entrance. Again, it's an existing curb cut that's there. Come in for parking, and also people who are taking classes in the EMS there will come into that parking lot. The parking lot in front is intended for the general public, and the parking lot on the side of the building is intended for students coming in and out of that facility, or the public using it as an overflow at night because we have a training room or a room that could be used by the public in that building as well. Parking for the staff is then at the back of the building.
Mike?
Yes.
And maybe you're going to speak to this, but you're telling me that right now on Highway 3552, they're not gonna let us cut in to do an entrance. So, I'm just thinking here out loud, if,
Chad, I didn't understand your question. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
so there's not gonna be a cut in to this entrance right here to, like,
Oh, to
only
get
way
up.
you can get in is if you're coming, I guess, eastbound. And so in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, this is kind of a difficult situation to maneuver for someone who's new. They might want to be coming out here, they're a new student, might have high school kids coming out here. Is there a way that we can access off of the light? And like, I'm just thinking to put like a little patch of concrete that connects you to the 9 public parking spots in the front, so that there's a way for folks to come in off this light, to come in here.
Yes, Chad, you could do that, but from our perspective, that's the last thing we want to do is intermingle public traffic with safety traffic. You know, if you could do that in there and somebody's coming in there, comes in and the sirens go off, the doors go up and these vehicles come tearing out of the building and some kids are down joking in a car, and it's not ideal to intermingle that traffic, and that's what we try not to do. But yes,
I get it, but it's not ideal to have a right in only, right in out, as far as in that first entrance, if we're not gonna be able to cut in.
If you're going the other way, what you have to, there's a cutoff, there's a place you can get across to the other outbound lane just outside of that frame.
Yeah,
You can
Where they
cross
can
right
do a
there.
turnabout.
You can do
Yeah.
a turnabout and come in there. Yeah, Chad, I'm not arguing your point. It's, we discussed even taking that median out and extending it back and extending another turn lane on the other side,
Yeah.
on the Toyota side of the road to try, so we would have a space to get in there.
Yeah.
But we just ran into the fact that the KTC doesn't want to do it and said no, and it would be adding several $100,000 to the budget.
And then here's the rest of the story. The power lines that you don't see, Mike, would you like to speak to that? The easement we couldn't shove the building back any farther
No.
because of the easements under the power lines. And then also, in order to try to save money, instead of tying on to sewer right now and us having to build the line,
Yeah.
there's gonna be a septic system here with this system until that field, that parcel behind there's developed.
What about water? I know that.
So
What
the
about water?
the
Because
other-
it was sewer and water, right?
The other piece is, you see on the left-hand side of the picture, Kentucky American is now engineering plans to put out to bid, building that water line. And they will put it out to bid, then they'll present that to us, Mike,
Yeah, they'll come back to you.
and then we can say yes or no.
Yeah.
And we've got an estimate, and it's a high estimate, and I think I shared that with you. They were estimating the linear foot about 110,
Yeah.
but what Kentucky American less than 2 months ago, or less than a month ago, they had a bid come back for the bypass water line extension, $57 a foot.
No, not Kentucky. It was
GMW says.
GMW did.
So-
Yeah.
What Kentucky American has shared is we'll pay what the bid comes back at, and
Right.
we can decline it. But in my belief, they estimate high, and we do have a recent bid on the same type of project
For half the price.
that's about half the price. So
And the other aspect of that is, depending on how the rest of that property gets developed, you can recoup some money in the future by getting tap fees off of that line when they bring it to the other properties that are on Lexus Way. Now,
So,
again, that will vary depending on who.
So where
what,
did
how
you
it's
say the
developed.
water's at now, currently?
it's down there by
By the rest stop.
the interstate more so, by that down that way.
So
But
how
it's
many-
on our side.
How many
Oh, it's on.
linear feet are we talking about?
I think the total, I can look it up.
I was gonna say,
Use ballpark.
I can't tell you that off.
While he's looking it up, Mike, what part of the future fire station for the city, meaning the blacktop area, what part are we not going to do? So we're not going to do the 29 spaces. We're not,
Right.
obviously,
And
that little dotted line is where we will put.
Yes.
That'll be kind of
Yes.
where the area is, as far as
Right,
we'll
the
pave.
ramps in front of the dark red building will not be built as part of it, they'll have to be added on in the future.
Right.
So we've we've cut it down to anything, only things that apply to the EMS
Okay.
facility.
Okay.
Since this is interlocal, does city pay half of this,
Yes.
Yes,
including the water?
yes.
And since I am the new guy, I want to ask a question. Why are we putting this EMS station at this spot?
Well, Chris Runyon and his team analyzed run volume. Chris, you want to answer?
I knew somebody would have an answer, I
Yeah.
just need to ask that question.
Yeah, so we just targeted the highest volume, call volume area, and we have a District 4 out there now. What we call District 4 is just a Toyota property. But what would encompass District 4 for this station, we took all those roads and mapped them out as far as response times now, which averages about 12 minutes versus when the station if the station was in place, and it cuts them down to 2 or 3 minutes. So it's a huge time saving, puts us at easy access to the interstate, which is an issue for us now, especially going north, because that Sadieville truck, when it gets on the interstate, has to come down, if it's south of the exit, they have to get on the southbound lane and come all the way down before you can find a turnaround. So this truck will be able to cut that off too. So it's just a lot of conveniences, and we kind of did a map study of response times. That's what led to this.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but did not, like at Toyota, you all had between 300 and 400 calls at Toyota
At Toyota.
annually, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Does Toyota not have their own ambulance? I thought they did.
They did at one time,
Oh,
but
okay.
they have
Okay,
EMTs on site, but they don't transport any longer.
Gotcha.
They call us.
Rob, additionally, I went to Toyota and asked them to donate this 7 acres, and they donated the 7 acres.
I thought I remember you saying that
And
before.
the site, not only does it improve response times for that area, but it'll domino effect and improves response times everywhere. And we're not adding staff, we're moving staff, and it's just that spot checked all the boxes, and then I
It'll
went
take
to.
a lot of pressure off those county stations. So having
Yeah,
to
just as
come
long as we
down
don't take
cover-
them out of stamp ground. I'm good.
No.
Right.
Where's
Yeah, so
that at?
It'll allow those trucks to stay home more often.
Just,
So to answer Ryan's question earlier, Ryan, they're estimating about 2,700 feet, linear feet. And if it came in at their estimate, it'd be $330,000. But what we're thinking, and the bid that was most recently came in from on that GMWCS, instead of $110, $57. So that would be a significant savings. Any other questions for Chris?
yeah, I want to go back to Mike, but
And we'll go back to Mike.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, while Chris is still there, so if we go this route with the new station, so you will no longer have any units or any crews stationed here?
We will-
Oh, you will leave one crew, okay.
Yeah.
I
well,
couldn't remember.
It'll put coverage on both sides of town, and
Right.
alleviate trying to get through that traffic. So.
Right. But you just leave one crew down there.
And that
Gotcha.
would put one in this station, just one, or?
It'll be two.
Two at
Two
this
in the new
station.
one. One here, one, it originally was gonna be 2 at the new and 2 at our old place, but, through an agreement with City Fire, who wants some of that space when we move out, we're gonna move one truck up to Jacobs Lane, behind Burger King to their station. So we'll have
So this
2
plan,
on this
we're-
side of town, they just won't be housed
With
together.
this plan, we're moving up there to Jacobs Lane, we're moving out here on this side, still got Central, still got Stamping Ground, still got Sadieville.
And they'll put a truck right up by the hospital too for those emergent transfers, so.
And the shift commander will be at Jacobs Lane near the hospital That's just makes sense because they're at the hospital so much.
Yeah, logistically, yeah, it's a good move, so.
Thank you.
Mike, I still got stuck in my craw here about that light and how I've just got a feeling that the public is going to utilize that light to try to get in. And so let's look at this in a different way. So you said that the ambulances will be coming out the front toward Lexus Way, then they'll be exiting out at that light. So you currently have staff parking.
Well, actually, I said that, but I also said they may back up the ambulances in the bay, and actually, I don't think you and I have ever talked about that. They'll back them in, so they'll be coming out both ways.
Oh, okay. I'm just trying to figure out how to utilize that light.
Chad, I can tell you, we've spent a lot of time trying to figure that out, to have something better than just one way in. But,
Okay.
I mean, Chad, you've got the drawing, call me tomorrow and tell me.
I already gave you a solution, you just gave me the answer I didn't like.
So let me ask you this, since the fire station is not being built right now, and I know the turning radius on a fire truck is much different from an
Yes.
ambulance.
Yeah.
The only thing to address Chad's question is, could the existing path be for public transportation, and then you have an inner, I don't, would that be possible for just ambulances only?
I'm not following you.
Another path
Like
parallel to.
essentially 2 lanes.
Oh.
The existing path would be for public, and then you could put some, barrier up there, but you could have emergency traffic only on an inner lane that runs parallel with that route. I know that sounds complicated, but I'm trying to address Mr. Wallace's
I understand.
concern.
Now I understand what you're saying. But again, the worst thing you want to see is an accident on site between a safety vehicle that's trying to go out and help somebody and somebody who's not paying attention, and whether they're, for whatever reason, there's an accident, there's a crash on site. And quite frankly, how many times have you seen a fire station when somebody's parked in front of the door because they couldn't figure out where the parking lot was? And that only reinforces your argument.
That's what's going to happen, because they're going to go right in
No,
here.
no,
I'm
because you
telling
can't get in
That would be a
Right.
disaster. I'm not thinking, somebody, it would be a disaster probably. Keeping them separate,
It's just something that should be done. I mean, I can't tell you I can't blame it on the code, Chad. I can't say it's got to be that way. But it's just good practice. It's good practice.
I agree, but they're going to come in here, I'm telling you.
Rob asked a great question. How are we going to block access to the public at the light?
Well, the only thing you can do is sign that and say,
Emergency vehicles only.
Emergency vehicles only, public entrance, with an arrow pointing away. And I will grant you, that will still happen. People will still.
So for them to get to and I've seen this happen in Stamping Ground when people have an emergency, instead of calling the ambulance, they drive to the ambulance station. So for them to get in there, they've got to go down, make a U-turn, come back, and come in that other entrance.
But it's right, like that
But they're going
U-turn
to come in
is,
that upper entrance,
Yeah.
Well, if they're wanting an
one for
ambulance,
life.
I'm sure Chris and them will answer the door. They can come right on in.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sure they're going to come in that light, where that light's at.
And they very well could, Rob. I
Ambulance
can't,
will get to them pretty quick then.
flashing lights tend to disperse you. I mean, so maybe there's a red light that gets put out there, or a red flashing light.
do you think there's no opportunity to petition KYTC about doing a cut across that median? I know you had that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, they've turned us down. Maybe you want to get Senator Thayer involved. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it for us.
So
Let's put it that way.
Because of we've got about 2 weeks before you think you'll
Yes,
have this
yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Because we're still getting the septic tank,
Right.
the septic system approval. All the ground's good. It's just going through the formality of it. JR was very kind. on Monday, went out at 5 o'clock, met the lady from the health department with the backhoe, and he dug the test pits.
You came out to help me.
Well, I came out, and I don't know how much I helped you. I took a couple pictures. I didn't need a shovel. JR had a big shovel. But the ground was good. It will meet the needs, and there's room, and it also fits behind the easement of the power line. So all that's good. It's just we got to wait till the document's signed. So we've still got 2 weeks before we put all this out.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
if I can call Kelly Baker gives me any hope, I'll ask Kelly Baker. Does that help?
Yeah, it's all we
I've
can
got a
do.
question, just out of curiosity for Chris. I mean, do you anticipate much public traffic?
Yeah.
And who is
So
that? Or-
the main purpose of this.
Well, let's
this-
go to the next slide, and then Chris can show you.
Yeah. So one of the main purposes of this building is the training center. So we need a place to conduct those EMT classes and paramedic classes that we've already started. So this is where this will house that. And we run 2 EMT classes a year, one in January, one in August, and then the paramedic class starts in August. So you're looking at max of 20 people in those classes. But if you have them going on simultaneously, you know, the EMT and the paramedic, you could have 40 folks there at one time in the building.
Yeah, okay.
And then we do training too for, you know, the public community where we can have 10, 15 folks on site. So it's.
But it's not like a fast food restaurant. I mean, you don't
No,
anticipate all day
nothing
long
like
people.
that, but it'll be regularly used. You know.
But those folks are gonna know where to go. I mean,
True.
you
True,
gotta
there'll be
give the
folks
public a little
stopping in.
credit.
You know, we have people stop in to pay bills or stop in to ask questions and that kind of thing. Bring their kids, just want to look at an ambulance, so.
Yeah, okay.
But that's not near as common.
So an aspect to this building that we had to consider was, you know, where do paramedics and EMTs have to work? They have to work in a truck. So there's a door that will pull down that Chris and his team can back a truck in, and they'll do training right there in that room. And you know, we've worked with BCTC to develop this certification program. Individuals can pretty much do that almost free of charge. It's very minimal because of some money available. And our staff will be the primary, you know, instructors in the certification class. So that, you know, it's just we're really trying to address a need. And Rick asked the question, how many where's that put us? You know, because how many are we down right now?
Well, that's another item.
I know.
It's already on
I
here.
got that question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Judge, take it.
But, you know, we're always trying to fill paramedic EMT roles, and we hope that this certification program will help address that. And then, you know, it's.
So, one other thought going back, and I understand Chad and Rob's concerns. That's gonna happen, doesn't matter if you go back to,
Go back to the last slide, please.
If we fix that bypass where you can come in from either way, it doesn't change anything. If somebody, because you're right, and I've had people tell me, we drove to the stamping ground before, and this is years ago, and the ambulance wasn't there. It might have been out on a run, I don't know, but yeah, they're gonna drive up there, so that's gonna happen. I don't know that we can't fix that.
I don't know
yeah.
if you could put down there on that one end, you know, some flashing.
But the
flashing
folks that are
light.
going to take the classes, they're going to know where to go. They're going to know what to do. Now, the general public, when they're in a panic situation, and that'll happen, who knows where they'll come in at? But I'm sure the folks at the station will deal with that, and will understand that. And if it's at nighttime, it's going to be lit, right? We're going to have street lights around the driveways, parking lot, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I get the concern, but I don't know how you can prevent it, even if we did have that intersection with a stoplight
Yeah.
coming into the, I mean, I'm not opposed to trying to get that done too, but
Any other questions for Chris, and then we'll let Mike go back and talk about anything else on the next on the next slide.
On the next slide is the floor plan of the EMS. The top of the slide, the top of that floor plan is the actual front of the building. And the entrance to the building is where the blue and the green touch at the top. That is the lobby there. You go into the facility much like you do now. You're in a small vestibule. You have access to a building clerk or an attendant in there, and you don't go beyond that standpoint. And there's a door on the right that goes into the training room, which could again be used for the public, and that has access to restrooms as well, just like we talked about at the sheriff's office. The rest of the green portion of that building is the administrative staff. We have the director and 4 offices in there and a conference room. Going down into the orange part is basically the private part of the station. It's where the employees are. At the very bottom of there, you can see there's 4 similar orange rooms. Those are the 4 bunk rooms that we have. And to the right of that is a combination kitchen and day room. Directly above that is locker rooms. We have male and female lockers. The rest of the orange stuff in there is storage for different items, a decontamination room, a laundry room for their equipment, a work room, and then of course the 3 bays are in the rust-colored portion of the building on the right. Back to the other side of the building, we have 3 breakout rooms for the training component of the thing. In addition to the training, to the large room, we have 3 additional rooms and storage and public restrooms in that part of the building as well. And that's, again, pretty similar. We've tweaked some things. And Rick, I lied to you. I said we had, if you look real closely, you can see the heavier lines around the day room on the right-hand side and going up that corridor on that left. Yeah. That's where the storm shelter is in this building. It goes straight across the corridor and captures the locker rooms, comes back down to the corridor, and it's obviously much smaller than the other building, but that takes care of everybody in this building.
So it's taking in mainly the locker room.
Yeah, locker rooms in the day room, the kitchen.
Is there a
Yeah.
is there a room in here for where are they supposed to do their charts? I see offices, I see bunk rooms, I see a day room.
So what we intend to do, Ryan, is to have individual computers in the bunk rooms so they can do their charting there, and then as well as a couple of stations out in the day room. So,
What other questions? Great question.
I see a future spot for a baby box. Appreciate that.
Baby box, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have cameras around the perimeter, but we don't have one at the baby box. And I don't know if you all have seen the baby box down at Station 1, but the first one was used in our state about a month ago. If you saw that, it's terrible that we have to do this, but obviously there was a life that may have been saved there, so you don't question the cost about that.
Any other questions?
Next slide is the rendering of this building as it sits off the site. You can see the left side of the rendering is the 3 bay areas of the EMS facility, and again, it's a brick building. We have a similar, as we talked about, the composite panels on the sheriff's station. That's the lighter gray that you see above there. Once we get above the ground, we've put a less expensive material up above there. And going across the front of the admin areas, that gray area in the middle, and then we're back to face brick on the training room side of the building. And as Judge Covington noted, we do have a place around the corner of the right-hand side is where the ambulance would pull into that training room where they could use it in there.
Also want to know, let the record reflect, Mr. Ellison has joined us.
This light gray material, is that like a life expectancy on that compared to brick, or?
I'm sorry?
Is there like a life expectancy on that compared to brick, or?
Yeah, it's a 50-year material.
Okay.
There won't be any issue with it.
Questions, comments? Would there be a motion to approve putting it to bid?
I'll make the motion.
So, Mr. Jones and then David Livingston with the second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Then we'll go to the same conversation we had earlier. We have to consider and possibly approve the structural review proposal for the EMS station from the same firm. Any questions about that? Motion from Mr. Corman, second from Mr. Hostetler. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all very much. We will, when you get everything ready, you'll let us know, and we'll be talking, and I'll let the court know, and then I will reach out to Kentucky Transportation District 7, Kelly Baker, ask about that cut-through specifically.
Kind of ballpark, what do you think, as far as timeline being?
For construction,
Well, to go out to bid.
to go out to bid is probably about 2 or 3 weeks away, depending on how long the state takes to give us the information on leach field. That's really what we're waiting on, because we don't have any of that grading work done, because it's actually, the leach field will be on the other side of the easement of the power line. Because, again, we've matched the use of the site. And I didn't, speaking of grading, I should have said, we are grading the site so that when the fire station comes along, the pad is in place and it's ready to go.
Estimated
And
cost.
we're putting all utilities in
Estimated
with
cost.
a way that they can be easily adapted and connected. But
Rob has a question.
Do you have an estimated cost on this building also?
it is 5.3 million.
And those funds, it's an interlocal agreement and split with the city.
Split with city.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you all for your work and your time. Appreciate it. You're not gonna hurt my feelings if y'all slide back to Lexington.
And I'm gonna go watch some basketball.
All right. So moving down to number 13, Veterans Affairs lease,
Can you explain that for me?
and Cam will explain for us.
So I guess the Veterans Affairs, so we lease a building from Landmark Crossing for the use, and we pay $1,500 a month for the use of the Veterans Affairs. But they wanted to do a sublease with the Kentucky State Lease Agreement, which is fine with me. I've looked at that. It's consistent with the lease that we have signed with Mr. Welch. Pursuant to that lease, we're not allowed to sublet it unless he's okay with it and without his written consent, but he has given consent via email that he's fine with it, so I'm fine with approving it. Does that make sense?
Questions for Cam?
Yeah, to sublease it to who?
It's to the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs.
Oh, okay,
It's just a new requirement that the state has.
okay.
Our lease won't change.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really not materially changing anything, but technically, since it's a sublease, we need to make sure he's good
I
with it.
understand.
Yeah.
Any additional questions? Motion for Mr. Hostetler. Is that a second for Mr. Ellison? Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Ordinance 2303, first reading, advisory board. I'd like to pass this down. Just Cam and I met earlier with individuals that had applied that we've shared names of previously. Pass that down, and they met tonight at 5:30, and thought it was very positive. J.R. Brandenburg, Lori Saunders with tourism, and Kimberly Rice from Parks and Rec were there, and the discussion in our meeting at 5:30, we changed the language in the ordinance to make JR the road department director, the tourism director, and the Parks and Rec Director ex officio members of the board. Then we had, how many, what did we say, Cam, on our number of volunteers?
We have 9 volunteers. So
9
it'd be
volunteers.
12 total if you add the 3 ex officio.
Yeah, so we had this conversation tonight in this meeting, trying to set the foundation, talk about, you know, they're gonna set their times to meet and try to meet monthly and set some short-term goals, long-term goals, set some bylaws. And I think it'll be a very positive process. The goal is to, you know, to protect the property, set out some guidelines, make recommendations to the court, and the court then considers those and makes the final decisions. And Cam's got the ordinance that would set this in place, and you know, the goal of by doing it by ordinance will assure that the group is set together and the boundaries and their work is kind of by ordinance, not just by, you know, by happenstance. So questions or comments before Cam reads the ordinance?
So should a member or members of the court be on this, or I don't know if they should or not, but.
You know, any court member can go to the meeting, and it'll be a public meeting, of course, but I didn't get any requests to go on it, and I really think that, you know, they're going to be trying to produce some goals, some guidelines, and then they'll come and talk with us. Cam, you want to read it?
Scott County Fiscal Court Ordinance Number 23-03, an ordinance establishing a Reservoir Property Advisory Board. Whereas Kentucky Revised Statute 67.710, Section 8 authorizes the county judge executive to, with the approval of the fiscal court, make appointments to or remove members from such boards as the fiscal court may by ordinance create. And whereas Scott County owns a number of parcels in the area of Skinnersburg Road, Gaines Road, Stockdale Road, and Coppage Road, collectively referred to as reservoir property, identified in Exhibit A, attached hereto and incorporated by reference herein. And whereas the reservoir property is used by a number of citizens and groups for recreational purposes, sorry,
Probably better take that.
I'll fix that. Including but not limited to horseback riding, biking, and hiking, all of which enhance the quality of life of the citizens of Scott County and bring economic benefit and tourism to the community. And whereas it is the intent of the Scott County Fiscal Court to preserve and protect the natural environment in the reservoir property. Now therefore be it ordained by the Scott County Fiscal Court as follows. Section 1. The Scott County Reservoir Property Board is hereby established and shall meet a minimum of 4 times annually in a location provided by the court. The board shall be comprised of 12 members, 9 of which shall be volunteer members, and 3 of which shall be ex officio members. The ex officio members shall be the director of Georgetown Scott County Parks and Recreation, the director of the Scott County Road Department, and the director of Georgetown Scott County Tourism. The 9 volunteer members shall be appointed by the county judge executive with the approval of the fiscal court, shall have lived in the county for at least 1 year prior to appointment, and shall have demonstrated an interest in horseback riding, biking, hiking, environmental preservation, or a related area. Section 2, the appointment of term of each volunteer board member shall be 4 years, except for initial appointment terms. The initial appointment term shall be as follows. 3 members shall be appointed to a 1-year term, 3 members shall be appointed to 2-year terms, and 3 members shall be appointed to a 3-year term. Section 3, there shall be no compensation for services of board members. Section 4, the Scott County Reservoir Property Board shall have the purpose and power to make non-binding recommendations to the Scott County Fiscal Court regarding the use, management, and maintenance of the reservoir property. The board's role in carrying out this purpose will entail suggesting methods to protect the scenic, biological, ecological, and geological attributes of the reservoir property, to minimize the impact to the environment, and to maintain a trail system of good quality. Section 5, this ordinance shall take effect upon passage. The publication, first reading approved March 23rd, 2023.
Questions, comments?
Cam, the 9 volunteer members
Yes, ma'am.
in a separate motion would need to be appointed. Do we have their names?
I can bring that back to the next meeting.
Yeah.
And I can read those names right now, just for people. These are the people, I shared these names already. It's Roy Cornett, Aubrey Roark, Andrew Burgoon, Kurt Ramsey, Jackie Anders, Michael Johnson, Temple Jewett, Lori's ex officio, I'm sorry, Mike Key, and Ethan Howard. That's actually just 8. There was 1 seat empty, essentially, or still available. So those are who had applied.
What was that next to the last, Mike Key?
Mike Key,
Okay.
your guy that you referenced. So he was there tonight. So I'll bring those back at the next meeting.
With the terms.
With the terms, recommendation for the terms.
On that terms, is there a limit to how many terms they could serve?
We have an ordinance for that too.
Okay, I didn't see it in this. I kind of figured it
We
might
have
be.
an ordinance that
It's separate.
overrides that,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Questions, comments, and would there be a motion? I see a motion from Rick Hosteller.
I did have one more.
Yes, sir.
Which I guess we can all only hope that this happens, but if the reservoir was to come back into talks again, would this board have any say-so on that property?
They're just strictly advisory in nature,
Okay.
and ultimately the court makes, decisions. I personally don't believe, but never say never.
Never say never.
Never say never. But my thought about is long-term, getting this designated for recreational use and then having some guidelines for it. So that's what I would like the court to consider. So
Thank you.
any
sir.
other questions? So we had a motion, we had a second, Rick and Chad, and then any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion passes. Thank you. Proposed advertisement, downtown pavilion naming rights. We have shared this with Devin Golden, the Chief Administrative Officer for the city. It's been shared with the concept's been shared with the mayor as well. And Devin reviewed and gave us a thumbs up on the language. She felt like Cam has done the work for the downtown pavilion naming rights RFP and advertisement. Any questions or comments about this?
Yeah, I guess, Judge, just thinking about the process, are you going to just put it out for bid, or are you going to individually?
No, we're gonna do a public advertisement.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I tell you what, I was thinking about was that we would, target some of our lending institutions, and you want to share the opportunity. But
Sure.
we'll definitely advertise it, put it on
Yeah.
social media, that website as well. But
And the other thing is, I guess, is it all-inclusive, or are you looking for a hybrid version of, let's say, Branstetter and Carroll want to chip money into something like this, and then we also might have Kroger. Does
well,
anybody-
the language is just
Just for
we'll
one
review
group.
one group, but
Okay.
we'll review.
Mhm.
I mean, we'll review any and all proposals.
Gotcha.
And what would be perfect is if you got, a 5-year proposal with, some capital behind it that would help offset the cost.
Yeah.
So, and of course, we can reject any and all proposals.
Right.
Any questions or comments?
One question, so this might be a crazy question, so if somebody gets it, who pays for the signage? Or is that part of the RFP as well?
It's part of the RFP that they would pay.
So they have to pay for it and they have to pay for, okay, I was
But,
making sure.
I think,
I mean, I could eat up the whole thing though.
I think it's actually in there. It says that the signage.
Well, it just says that there will be signage.
Yeah.
I think
I
that
thought
would be
it said-
something
I thought it said
to
it had
note,
to be
because
approved.
those signs are not cheap.
No.
That could eat up the whole thing.
But ultimately, you know, whoever makes a proposal, then we'll sit down and kind of have some negotiations about placement. You know, we want to make it tasteful. It doesn't need to be, you know, it needs to fit the pavilion.
You want to go ahead and have, you know, an idea of what size you're looking for?
Yeah.
And get them to give you sort of a guesstimate?
From Branson or Carroll. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea, like, where it's gonna be
You
and
know, if
size.
somebody's coming to you and they're saying, hey, yeah, I'm ready to give you $5,000 a year or whatever, and your
Yeah.
sign's gonna cost you $25,000.
Well, that doesn't work, does it?
Yeah, we could lose money on the RFP.
You don't know ahead of
Yeah.
time, you know.
Yeah. So I will get with Branson or Carroll, and maybe they could give us a rendering of
Marquee right now
a
costs
marquee.
$25,000.
Yeah. You're talking about a big marquee that's
Marquee,
Yeah, but-
changeable. Yeah.
Are you talking about who's gonna pay for the actual signage?
Yeah.
Because that's in the proposal.
Yeah,
It says
that's
the
what-
proposer's responsibility, all proposers commit to providing signage, design, manufacturing, and installation at their cost and to the satisfaction of the fiscal court. That's at the very bottom of
What
that.
is that for us, though? You know what I mean? What size?
Oh, I thought you were.
I will get with Branson or Carroll,
Oh,
and they'll
I
give
got
us
you.
a rendering, a couple options.
Sure.
That I can show.
I thought the question was who's gonna pay for the
That's where
signage.
it starts.
Yeah,
But that, yeah,
But
anyhow.
I think maybe part of the
But yeah, we
part
do
of the-
need to define what,
package
least give 'em
could
a
be,
size.
like, we have a place where that sign could go at the expense of
right.
the advertiser.
I think we want to set the tone as far as what that looks like.
The size and stuff would have to follow the sign ordinance anyway.
Yeah, correct, but it'll be at our discretion to approve the size. But I'll go ahead and ask them, give me some options to show bidders. So we'll do that, yeah. Any other questions or comments? And do we have a motion?
No, but I will make.
Motion, second for Mr. Jones. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all very much. EMS new hire, Mr. Mudrack.
That's plural now, he's added more.
No.
It's plural. So, yeah, Judge Magistrates, thank you. I'll be brief here. We have 2 full-time new hires to present. First is Marcus Stevens at $12.47 an hour. The second full-time hire is Chance Bryman, also at $12.47 an hour. They both start on April the 1st. And the third person is a part-timer, James Morrison. He will be at $10.93 an hour as a part-time EMT, and he'll also start on or after April the 1st. So I present that
Questions or
recommendation
comments?
to you.
Motion?
Is Chance leaving the fire department, or?
He left in
okay.
January, is my understanding.
Okay.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Kelly?
Kelly Corman with a second.
What'd you say the staffing levels were?
There's 2, yeah. Okay.
Don't pay no attention.
So we'll ask that question afterwards. We got a motion, we got a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Question, Mr. Hostetler?
No, it's in the email.
All right. Thank you all. Detention Center contracts, Jailer Broyles, Cam Culbertson. I have personally spoken today with the Marion County Judge Executive. They approved this last week, the draft. Spoke with Oldham County's Judge Executive. He's willing to move forward. He had not seen it, to my conversation with him, but was willing. He was going to talk to the jailer, and I think we need to send him whatever version to Judge Vogler. But he was willing.
I spoke to the Oldham County jailer today to find out where that contract stood, and he had spoken to their attorney. I had mentioned to you that their attorney had maybe wanted some language put in on how to mediate disputes or whatever.
So we should hold on that one?
I shared that one.
Okay.
Three, yeah.
Right. Through this conversation with the jailer this afternoon, he said that their attorney's not worried about that language now. He feels like we can work well without that language in the contract, and they're ready to move forward with it. So I assume they're going to share that with the county judge executive.
Okay.
It's materially the same. I know you hadn't shared it is the only reason I don't know if we want to approve that or if we want to pass it so that they can have a chance to read it. The terms are basically the same. The cost is $46 per day. Darren, correct me if there's any other thing we change. I don't think there is. Yeah, I think this contract the terms are basically the same as all the other ones.
Yes.
So the only other, like I called the London, Laurel County Judge Executive, and I've not reached him. I've played phone, I've called a couple times. Have you had feedback from the jailer down there?
I have not. No, sir.
So it sounds like we have three. Clark County was affirmative. I've talked to their judge. Marion County has already passed.
Mm-hmm.
And Oldham, we have that, it's all the same language
So
except
hold on Laurel, not Oldham.
hold on Laurel.
Correct.
Do you want to go ahead and pass them with the understanding or with the,
What was the Laurel County's, yeah,
or whatever you
yeah,
finalize?
authorizes,
So we don't have to wait
yeah.
on doing this again.
What was the Laurel County daily rate?
It was higher because
Because of the federal inmates.
Yes, I think it was $65 a day.
If you all want to, approve them,
Based on,
and if I don't anticipate any material terms changing. If they do, we would certainly bring it back to the court.
So with them being higher, can we agree, that Laurel is the last one to be used?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I'm all on board.
Questions or comments?
Will this mess up, because I was reading this, like the Clark County one, where it says for 140, you already send people to Clark County for your keep-aways, I
Yes.
think.
Yes.
Will it mess with that at all? Because that's not in here, that you can
Yeah.
send keep-aways there. This is only for if you're over 140.
Correct. Yes.
So will that, I just don't want you to, will that mess up what you're doing now?
Yeah, it won't impact my ability to be able to kind of on the fly, be able to take care of situations at the jail immediately like that.
I just want to make sure.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Questions, comments?
I should make a motion to approve them all based on Cam and you
Okay.
going through, send them back out.
David Livingston,
I think you said.
second. David Livingston with a second. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We will send these out to the county attorney and ask them to get them, Marion's already passed it, so it's just a matter of signing. But, and then, can you follow up with the Laurel County?
I can.
Jailer tomorrow and communicate with Cam and I? And then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to make a comment that I made a post after our last meeting that the roadside crews are going back out, and I had a citizen reach out to me, and I emailed Darren, and I'd say within a week or two, they picked up 121 bags of trash on that citizen's stretch of road. So I just want to say thank you and great job, and keep it up, making our community better. So,
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, that was on Long Lick Pike and Glass Pike.
yeah. So,
Yeah. So.
and I've had a
again-
couple other people already reach out. Some will be emailing you to those as well.
Yeah, please, and that invitation certainly open to all of you guys. If you get any kind of complaints on any roadways, please let me know and we'll get them taken care of. Okay?
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you.
Now, during new business, I was going to mention some facts about cleanup, so. No, that's okay. No, all good stuff. Much appreciated by all. The other item, number 18, is surplus. And
It's been shared.
it's been shared.
Mostly things from the basement.
Yeah.
But clerk's office submitted it.
Any questions or comments? Motion?
Motion.
Second from Mr. Wallace. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. New business, we discussed a possible consideration of a resolution related to the operating, especially, help me, Cam.
Occupational license.
Yes.
Well, it was like they revised all the regulations, about 140 pages.
It was about 140 pages. And let's just, you all have it. We need to distribute the 140 pages.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of changes. Yeah.
Yeah, you did,
But let's sit on it and we'll consider it for our next meeting for approval. All right? And then I did want to mention the roadside cleanups. It's great. The jail's back out and they're out there picking up. The Swartz contracting, the collaborative effort with JR and the road department and Public Works. JR mentioned that, JR, how many, you mentioned 120 on Long Lick by road crew, but there's, how many bags Swartz have?
3 days, we've counted like 800 bags.
So if you've driven on any road in Scott County, the bags are out there, and they're, are they done yet, or are they still?
No, they're still.
They're out there.
So, in my opinion, you know, I'm glad the combination and the collaboration now with the road crew from the jail back out, doing maintenance during the year, but I'm glad that we are doing this big, massive cleanup in the fall and the spring, because it just does an instant, you know, boom. You know, we're really attacking it. But now that the jail's back out and they're doing some work, that'll be good maintenance and good efforts there. And but thanks to everybody, JR. Thanks to the Swartz crew and your crew, and you all are picking up. You and Public Works are picking up bags. Yes.
And that helps so much before the mowing tractors get out there and scatter it all over.
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks to their.
Yeah, and then you know, thanks to all.
Well, and
The other thing I wanted to mention was JR and their crew. Have y'all completed the roadside wood debris, tree debris cleanup? Pretty much. And you had mentioned like 75. Can you share with that?
Yes, we've probably picked up over 75. We missed a load here and there.
75 dump truck loads.
Truck loads, yes. 40 loads of chips that we chipped up in the brush truck, in the chipper truck, and the debris truck that y'all were kind enough to buy us, which is a lifesaver, piece of equipment.
Just that massive amount.
30-some loads on there, 33 loads, I think.
That's crazy.
It's amazing. It's like a one-man operation.
Rick, you had a comment.
well,
I'm
just
sorry.
on back to the trash pickup. So Swartz they'll be ending pretty soon because they'll go back to mowing. Is that what? Do they for the state, right?
Yes.
But it goes back to your point that spring
mash
pickup and
big cleanup.
mash pickup, and then possibly again in the fall if we need to.
And Jared, you can comment to this, but you know, we're using litter abatement grant monies to pay for Swartz, and I think this is a perfect amount, and it's been great. JR's.
JR hasn't worked out. They can pick up when they're not mowing.
Yeah.
Not mowing season. That's worked out with the state, so it's good that they are.
Problem is, you can pick it up this week and go back down the same road, there'll be McDonald's.
Yeah.
And Judge,
Coke, beer bottles, and it's sad, but it's just part of it.
the litter abatement money, when Swartz quits mowing, is that money that could go toward the jail?
In the past,
Yeah, it is.
Dan and I work out materials.
Yeah, so Jared and I work together on any additional funds in the litter abatement money to help us offset the costs of our litter pickup program as well.
Cool.
Rippers, bags, some personnel, we try to cover what we can for sure.
so I have no new business. Does anyone on the court? And then I'll ask anybody in the audience.
Let Rick go first.
Well, I just wonder if you had any kind of an update from the Bluegrass Water.
On Monday, Cam and I had a conference call with Fitz. Fitz has agreed to kind of serve as an advisor, second chair. He's supposed to send us a couple names of recommendations to serve as lead counsel for us to call. He's not sent that as of yet. We'll call him tomorrow and try to prompt him to do so.
What I've tried to do is ask the folks in Deer Run and Moon Lake and Riften Meadows, I think they're the three in the district that I serve that are impacted, try to get one person from each neighborhood to kind of, I've asked them to call your office.
And I've spoke about a half hour today from a lady that kind of said she served as the spokesman for Riften Meadows.
Okay.
So.
Was her name Katrina? Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
But she was very appreciative of us. You know, we can send a resolution. You see what they got us last time by hiring this outside counsel and trying to go at it.
And my thought process was that, and I'm appreciative as well that we're able to do this. You know, Fitz gave us that guidance, but my thought process was those communities, including the folks that are impacted with Chad, being able to at least one contact person from each community as you're made aware, or the court's made aware of something we're going to do, that they can be involved so that they can show up and participate, whatever.
That would be an advantage, I believe.
You have anything else?
No.
Rob?
I had one guy ask about, is there a plan for installing any new trees at Great Crossings Park?
You know, it's something we.
What was his set name?
I'm not going to say.
Hey,
I'll know it.
Rob, it's something that we've talked about, and I would love to order 50 trees, but I would like to try to put that in the budget. So yes, I'd love to do that, and we've talked about it. The other thing out there is, you know, we need to finish the walking track, making it a circle. We need to add some playground equipment. We've talked about phase 2 that's been planned but needs to be implemented. And then the number one call that I've been getting lately is pickleball courts. And that's something that
Chad's just calling in from different numbers.
Yeah. But Chad has also spoken, I'm going to turn it over to Chad, about an inexpensive option out there that could be a disc golf course that would not cost very much at all. I'll turn it over to Chad.
So, JR, if you come on up, let me pass that down. Back in October, my daughter came to me and said, Dad, I think we should have a disc golf course at Great Crossings Park. I said, honey, if that's what you want, you need to come and talk to the fiscal court. So in October, JR and I went out. Tim Tevis was out of town when we met. And we went and we just drove around in parts of the areas of the park that, JR, you might be able to explain it, but property that I wouldn't say it's
Not suitable for building
not
or anything.
suitable for anything,
yes.
except for throwing a disc at a pole with a little cage on the top of it. And so what we kind of roughly did, and look, I'm just kind of showing you basically how this works, is a hole generally runs between 200 and 300 feet. So it essentially has a sign, maybe a concrete pad where you start it, you throw it into open area or toward a little metal pole that's concrete in the ground. It's got a little cage on it. And we kind of basically mapped out about 18 different holes in areas. You can see the baseball field, but that's below the road department, around the dog park, and then in the area down by the creek, and try to stay away from the walking path, or where you don't want anybody walking or running and there's discs coming at their heads, in a way that would be away from them. So anyways, she has had conflicts to come and present every Thursday night, so I just said, hey, I'm going to do this.
Questions or comments?
JR, do you got anything you want to add?
I really didn't know what a disc golf was. I didn't know where it's a four-legged creature or what. But Kelly educated me on this, and I got to watching it on ESPN off and on, and I think I would love to play disc golf.
There's a new course over at the college too,
Yeah,
right around the church.
yeah,
Well, I mean,
Georgetown's,
they've redone it. They've got like nice little mats out and stuff.
yeah.
There's a whole group that meets there multiple times a week.
Yeah, and there's one in Frankfurt, there's one in Lexington, it's on East Side Park in Frankfurt, and there's been one at Georgetown College for a long time, and. You still gonna have one?
I have no idea.
So like around like your holes 4, 5, and 6, is that like putt golf? Like if a dog gets it in the dog park, you're done. Like is that a two-stroke penalty?
There's a windmill, there's one of them in the windmill that you gotta throw it through.
Those, I mean, we take our dogs out there a lot. Like those go all the way back to the tree. I
It's
don't
the
know.
area behind the fenced-in area. Is the way I envision it.
I can't wait till Frisbee goes in there.
I can't wait.
It's gone.
What about when it goes in the creek?
You lose it. It's like hitting your golf ball in the creek, you know? You got a penalty.
You gotta chase the dog down.
This is just kind of an idea. There is nothing
just messing with
nailed
you.
to stone, and I'm open, and Judge is open, and we just kind of want to give a rough thought of maybe where we could put something. And we could chuck it and put it someplace else.
I do too.
Great idea for having people out there.
Get people outdoors.
Yeah.
And finish the walking path within that circle so that
So
everyone across the road.
we can definitely have a discussion about this during budget consideration.
That's all I had.
All right. The Budget Committee consists of David Livingston, Chad Wallace, and Kelly Corman. So, any other new business? All right, anybody from the audience with new business? All right,
Judge, one thing, interlocal meeting is on Tuesday,
yes.
here, I believe, or is it at City Hall? We have
I would
determined-
like to get it here where we can Zoom, but I think they can Zoom from there. I have a meeting with Devin tomorrow.
Yeah.
I will let everybody know.
If anybody has any issues,
Who's on the interlocal
The
committee?
interlocal committee consists of,
it used to be Alvin,
used to be Alvin, but
me and David.
you and David, and then I'd asked,
One, but I don't think.
well, I asked Dwayne Ellison if he would serve on the interlocal, and you've not really given me an answer, so,
You never gave me a date.
well, you know the date, Tuesday.
But if anybody has any issues.
And anybody
let us
can
know.
come to this meeting,
Yeah.
and anybody can make comments.
Yeah.
It's not real. The Tuesday at, what time? 3.
Might be early.
All right.
That's it, Judge.
All right. Any other comments?
No, it's open meeting. Anybody can come. Rick's coming.
Yes, David Livingston.
I was just gonna say, if you can't do Zoom, I will actually be there. I'm not gonna have to sit here.
Okay. I appreciate it. I'll let everybody know after I meet with Devin. And I'll try to share, I have a list for an agenda. She has a list, and I will share that information prior to the meeting. John Ward, I got one question for you. On the bay floor, bid, anything happened on that?
Well, we got no bids,
Got 0 bids.
but one, coat the bay floors at Station 1. We did have a guy that we met with earlier that gave us a quote. He just was confused on. Right. Yeah.
So nobody's officially bid. Can we negotiate with individuals?
Yes.
So call that gentleman back and ask him, but probably if we could try to wrangle around another quote.
What are you doing to it?
Surface on the bay floor, epoxy, seal-coated epoxy.
Is it
But
something?
with a
Feel
texture,
like
a texture.
It's
JR's
got texture.
floors out at the road department.
Is yours, what's
Is
yours
it
made
something you
of?
need to clean it first?
Oh, yeah, they'll have to come out and there's a process.
There's a local guy that does that.
And that's who we told.
What's the process to clean it? I just wondered, is there,
I don't know, Rick.
you know, JR? Yeah.
Just normal. Just normal cleaning.
Oh, but they would grind it. I didn't know if you could use like a sandblaster type thing, or I didn't.
Thank you, John. With that said, is there a motion to adjourn? Got Kelly Corman, second Rob Jones. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.